Guys, stop scrolling because what just happened could completely change the war in Gaza. Iran just made a move that's not only bold, it's explosive. And if this actually goes through, the entire Middle East could shift overnight. We're talking about the possibility of a united Muslim world military force against Israel. Yeah, you heard it right. This isn't just statements, this is just protest. This is the kind of move that could change history. And the crazy part, Iran is reaching out to Saudi Arabia and Turkey, nations that don't even like Iran. So why now? Why Gaza? And what does this mean for the future of the conflict? Let's break this down. So here's the deal. Iran's Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi just called for an emergency meeting of the Organization of Islamic Cooperation, OIC. That's 57 Muslim majority countries. And he wasn't subtle about it. He's basically saying the time for talk is over. Gaza needs action. The Muslim world needs to unite. Now think about that. That's Iran, a Shia powerhouse, calling on Saudi Arabia, the Sunni giant, to stand shoulder to shoulder. For decades, these two countries have been rivals, proxy wars, political tensions, ideological differences. And now, Iran is asking them to lead the Islamic world together against Israel's Gaza offensive. Now, why is Iran pushing this so aggressively? Well, let's talk about Gaza right now. For months, Gaza has been under siege. Thousands killed, many of the women and children, entire neighborhoods flattened, hospitals running out of medicine, families rationing food and water. Every headline, every image, it screams humanitarian disaster. And now, Israel's war cabinet has approved a new military operation in Gaza City. That means more displacement, more bombs, more deaths. So Iran sees this moment as a turning point, not just another tragedy, but the moment to rally the Muslim world into action. Think about that. Iran is framing this as genocide, not politics, not war, genocide. And once you use that word, you're not talking about statements anymore. You're talking about intervention. So what exactly is Iran asking for? Well, here's where it gets intense. Araghchi isn't just calling for a strongly worded letter. He's talking about a joint Islamic military force, humanitarian aid convoys into Gaza, a unified Islamic political front against Israel. That's not diplomacy. That's a roadmap for escalation. And if the OIC even partially agrees, it could shake the balance of power in the Middle East overnight. Because let's be honest, 57 countries united even just diplomatically sends shockwaves. But a joint military force, that's unprecedented. Okay, let's talk about the OIC for a second. Most people don't even know this group exists. It's basically the United Nations of the Muslim world. Founded in 1969, 57 member states, from Indonesia to Pakistan, Egypt to Turkey, Saudi Arabia to Iran. On paper, that's 1.8 billion people represented. On paper, that's massive power. But here's the catch. Historically, the OIC has struggled to actually do anything. They meet, they condemn, they pass resolutions, and then nothing happens. So why does Iran think this time will be different? Well, two reasons. One, the humanitarian situation in Gaza is worse than ever. Two, public anger in Muslim countries is boiling over. And Iran knows if there's ever a time to push the OIC into action, it's now. Now, here's a real dramatic twist. Iran is calling on Saudi Arabia to lead. Let me remind you, Iran and Saudi Arabia just restored diplomatic ties last year. After decades of hostility, these two countries have been on opposite sides of almost every conflict in the region. Yemen, Syria, Lebanon, you name it. But Gaza might be the one issue where they find common ground. Because for the Muslim world, Palestine isn't just politics, it's identity, it's history, it's religion. And if Saudi Arabia actually responds positively, that could signal a level of Islamic unity we haven't seen in decades. Add Turkey into the mix, a NATO member with a strong military. And suddenly, Iran's call doesn't sound like fantasy, it sounds like maybe, just maybe possible. So what happens if this really goes forward? Option 1. The OIC issues another statement, condemns Israel, and life goes on. Gaza suffers, nothing changes. That's the usual script. Option 2. The OIC goes further. Humanitarian convoys, diplomatic pressure, maybe sanctions. That would be serious, but still within the realm of diplomacy. Option 3. The game changer. A joint military force or even military protection for Gaza. That would be huge. That would escalate this conflict to a regional confrontation. That would put Muslim countries directly against Israel and tension against Israel's allies like the US. And let's be real, that would change the entire Middle East overnight. But hold on, because as dramatic as it sounds, there are risks. First, unity. Can 57 countries that disagree on almost everything certainly unite? Iran hopes Gaza is blue, but history says otherwise. Second, escalation. If OIC nations move militarily, Israel will respond. And the US, they won't stay on the sidelines. That could spiral into something way bigger than Gaza. Third, domestic politics. Leaders in Saudi Arabia, Egypt, Turkey, they have their own agendas. Public anger is high, but will governments raise their own ability to act? And if you're watching this from outside the Middle East, you might be thinking, okay, but why should I care? Here's why. If the Muslim will actually unite and acts, even diplomatically, it sends a message to every other global power. The status quo is over. And if they act militarily, forget about it. That's the kind of move that could trigger new wars, redraw alliances, and reshape the entire global order. Oil markets, security alliances, refugee crisis. This isn't just about Gaza. This is about world stability. So here we are. Iran has raised the stakes. The OIC has the invitation. The question is, will they act? Will the Islamic world rise as one? Or will this be another moment of silence, another headline that fades away? Because make no mistake, people in Gaza don't have the luxury of waiting. They are dying now, they are starving now, they are displaced now. This is a moment of diplomacy colliding with desperation, and the world is watching. Stay tuned, because if the OIC actually responds with action, not words, the Gaza conflict, the Middle East, and maybe even global politics as we know it will never be the same. If you guys found this video helpful, don't just scroll away, hit subscribe, hit like, and share this with someone who needs to understand how serious this moment really is. Because the media might give you sound bites, but here we break it all down. The future of Gaza, the balance of power in the Middle East, and maybe the stability of the world could be decided in the next few days. Stay with me, I'll keep you updated.